It is that time of the year again where the air is getting a little bit fresher, the weather is a little bit cooler, and everyone seems a little bit happier, or at least that is what I'm seeing from social media. I wouldn't know, it is hot all year round where I live. And yet I may be living in a place that is hot all year round, but that doesn't stop Instagram from feeding me with all of these beautiful fall patterns that come around at this time of the year. The only way for me is to live vicariously through you guys' photos and videos on social media, and also make this video about 20 fall patterns that have caught my eye and stolen my heart. Seeing as how I knit much fewer sweater patterns as compared to warm weather garments, I am super selective about the sweaters that I do knit, and even so sometimes there are a few disappointments here and there. Speaking of knitting sweaters though, I have recently finished knitting a self-drafted sweater. Actually, this is my first self-drafted garment. It has this beautiful little braiding that goes down the side of the sleeve. I have yet to reblock this because I didn't stretch it out as much as I wanted to, so the braiding is still a little bit squished together, but I love this. There are very nice exaggerated ribbing accents that are a little bit carved at the edges over here, and I made a whole video on the sweater just showing my progress and my journey, and I love the tweed flex. It is beautiful. This sweater is beautiful. I love it so much, and if you guys want to check that video out, I will link it in the description box down below. If you guys are new here, hi, I'm Yvette. I talk about all things art from painting to knitting. So without further ado, grab your knitting, grab a cup of tea. For me, I just have my water with me because I'm feeling a little bit unwell, so I need to drink a lot of water. Otherwise, I will just be coughing throughout this whole video. So first things first, this video will be mostly talking about sweaters, but I have two cardigans that I want to talk about as well. I do plan on knitting one cardigan eventually, and I do think I'm settling on this first cardigan, which is the Beatrix cardigan by Gregoria Fibers. This is a pattern that has definitely caught my eye. I have saved this in my reverie for quite a while now. I haven't yet gotten the yarn for it, haven't really made concrete plans to knitting this pattern, but I really do love this pattern a lot. I love the texture that it's got going all around, the braiding that's going down the side of the sleeves. It's kind of like my self-drafted sweater as well. I do like these kind of details. And I also love the buttons that she chose to use for the cardigan. The fact that there is a little bit of spacing, it's not like a cardigan with overlap between the buttonhole and the buttons themselves. So I do think it looks really nice and delicate. So this cardigan is has a really cropped silhouette. It's a round neck and a nice relaxed fit. It comes in 8 sizes, and it comes from 108 cm to 156 cm, or 42.5 inches to 61.5 inches. Now, I do think the range of sizes is really good. For the gauge wise, the suggested yarn weight is an Aran weight yarn. The gauge is 20 stitches and 22 rows, and the recommended needle size is 5mm and 4mm, like me for the ribbing, but the main needle would be 5mm. And I do think, even though a cardigan is flat most of the time, I do not usually like knitting flat. I don't really enjoy it all that much, but the fact that it is a 5mm needle size, I do think it can still be worked up quite quickly. So yeah, I do love this cardigan a lot. I think it's time for me to try the knitting for olive heavy merino with this cardigan. I do want a cardigan that is thick but not too thick that I can't wear it at all, because I do think cardigans are, for me, I do want them to be a bit more delicate, a bit more drapey, and so yeah, I may want to try the heavy merino for this one. They do recommend to hold 2 yarns double. Vivo by Rama is the suggested yarn, which is 100% Norwegian wool, and they do recommend to hold it double with the alpaca silk by Rama. I love working with 100% Norwegian wool. This one is 100% Norwegian wool. It's the Sweatersss cardigans, and I do love this yarn so much as well. I don't really see a need ever to hold yarn double, because I feel like that makes the sweater much more expensive than it has to be, and so I do believe I could get away with just maybe knitting this in the Sweatersss cardigan, which is also 100% Norwegian wool, but maybe just changing my needle size to go one size smaller, something like that. All in all, I think this cardigan is really beautiful. I do love the color that she used as well, which looks to be a dusty yellow, and that's probably a color that I'll go with as well if I were to knit this cardigan. The second cardigan and the last cardigan that I have to recommend is the one by Florence Miller. It is the fennel seed jacket. This looks like a much more simple, of course it's not simple in its construction, but it just visually looks a bit more simple, like for everyday kind of wear, and I do like that as well. I think that this makes the jacket much more versatile for everyday use. So the final seat jacket is a relaxed fit raglan cardigan featuring a simple broken rib texture and neat double knitted details, which I assume is for the button band. I'm not sure if it is double knitted at the wrists as well, but the collar is also a double knitted collar. So even though double knitting is really tedious, I do love the look of a double knitted band. I do think it looks super sleek. I did double knitting for my Darjeeling blouse and I love how it looked like. At the end, it's just very neat and I love that finish. The recommended yarn weight is an Aran weight. It is meant to be held, once again, with 2 yarns held double, one being a worsted weight and one being a lace weight yarn. The recommended yarn is the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino and the Soft Silk Mohair. I do believe that she used what looks to be like Dusty Banana. I'm not so sure. I don't think it's really written here. Oh, and also the Fennel Seed color, I do believe. I'm not sure what color she actually used, but I would think it's like the Fennel Seed color, which is from the name, or maybe Dusty Banana as well. But this color, really nice. There's something about a nice dusty yellow cardigan that really looks really nice. It comes from size A all the way to size I, which is basically 1 through 9, and that is 75 cm to 155 cm with around 15 cm of positive ease. So this 75 cm to 155 cm are for your normal bust circumference without the positive ease being added on into it. I believe that's what she's trying to say. So it is 75 cm to 155 cm, or 29.5 inches all the way to 61 inches. So I do believe that this is quite a wide range of sizes. So the next thing that I want to recommend is all sweaters. I'm going to start with a bit more simple everyday kind of sweaters. These are sweaters that are more or less stockinette all around, you know, really simple classic details without any cables or color work, things like that. The first sweater that I have to recommend is the Astrid sweater by Pernille Larsen, who is also from Knitting for Olive. And this sweater has caught my eye because of its really nice and chic details. It is a really nice, not too oversized fit. I feel like these days sweaters are always super huge and oversized, and so when I see a sweater that's a little bit more tailored to the body, that is, you know, relaxed fit but not too baggy and oversized, it catches my eye. And also I love the curved hem details. I talked about that in my self-drafted garment video as well, but I do love the curved hem that is on the bottom of this sweater. How she achieves this look is because she knits bottom up. The way she picks up the stitches results in the hem curving at the bottom, and I think it looks beautiful because of this look. It is a very tiny yet important detail to the sweater that makes it different from other normal stockinette sweaters. The recommended yarn weight is a DK weight yarn. The gauge is 20 stitches and 29 rows, and it comes in quite a few sizes from XS all the way to 5XL, which in measurements that is 104 cm all the way to 152 cm, or 42.5 inches all the way to 59.75 inches. I do believe these sizes are ones that already took into account the positive ease. If I was living in a cold country that I need an everyday sweater for, this would be like the top sweater that I would definitely knit. And I am still really tempted to knit the sweater just because of how the curved hem looks. The only thing is that it's knit bottom up, so it'll be a bit difficult to estimate the length as well. The only time I knitted a bottom up blouse was with the Darjeeling blouse. That was also bottom up, but I think it was okay. It's just a little bit more, it's a bit more daunting for me because I don't know if I'm going to actually knit the ideal length that I want, because it's really hard to wear it. So yeah, that's the only thing. But if you're okay with a bottom-up construction, I think this sweater will be perfect for that. The next sweater is also a really seemingly easy construction, but the way she does it makes it look like a very interesting sweater. So all these kind of stockinette sweaters, if you will, I tried to choose sweaters that looked simple in its construction, but yet the finished product just looks really special and unique. And the second sweater is the Uma sweater by Airy Knits. I did knit the Euro sweater by her as well, and I do love the Euro sweater. I love all the cables that are going on over there. It is a side-to-side construction, so wasn't a huge fan of that. For this Uma sweater, the recommended yarn weight is a worsted weight yarn. The gauge is 16 stitches and 27 rows. And There are only, unfortunately, 4 sizes, which are from 120 cm all the way to 150 cm. This is with, I believe, the positive ease already being added into it, and the recommended positive ease is 15 to 20 cm. So this is a little bit more of a relaxed to a bit more oversized fit. And yet I still think it works for this particular sweater because of the way the front pieces overlap each other. I do believe you need a little bit more of a positive ease to have that nice flowy look, kind of like a trench coat look going on. And I think it looks really nice. Love the color choice that she used as well, the coffee brown. I think it looks really cute and very chic and effortless looking. You can look so put together with just putting the sweater on with just some high-waisted skinny jeans. I think it will look really nice. Okay, so a little bit about the construction of the sweater. This sweater is worked top down, beginning with the ribbing on the collar. You then separate for shoulders and pick up stitches for the inner front. Short rows are worked along with increases around the shoulder stitches. The work is then split, and the 2 fronts and the back are all worked separately until after the armholes where they are joined again. The rest of the body is worked flat in one piece. Stitches for the sleeves are then picked up and worked in the round. All in all, I don't think it's a very difficult sweater to knit. It's just that you got to knit it in multiple pieces because of that design at the front. You're not knitting in a round, so that will make it a little bit more finicky, a bit more tedious to knit, but I do think the finished product is really worth it. The next sweater that I want to talk about is Coffee Run by Veronica Lindbergh, also known as Kuto Vakika on YouTube and Instagram. And this is a really nice, simple sweater. I know I said before, after knitting the flowy sweater, that I don't think I like the look of raglan sweaters on me. But I do believe the only reason why I didn't like that particular raglan sweater is because the yoke depth was really deep. So this Coffee Run sweater by Veronica Lindbergh, I feel like I would like this raglan sweater fit a lot better than the flowy sweater because of how the yoke ends right at the armpits, just a little bit below there, because of its more relaxed fit and not so much a baggy, oversized, huge sweater kind of fit. Because I realized that I really do not like raglan sweaters with deep yokes because I find it really uncomfortable. It is either too oversized, and the moment I lift up my hands or I wear a backpack, everything just gets cinched upwards and my sleeves are like at my elbows, so I really do not like that. This sweater though, I can get behind. I think it's really classic. The fact that she chose to knit it in a grey colour makes it really suitable for everyday use because of its more neutral colour, and I love the fact that she turned the raglan increases into a design in itself. The recommended yarn weight is a sport weight yarn. The gauge is 18 stitches by 25 rows. I think it's mostly knit on a 5mm needle. The sizes available is XS to 5XL, which is also 91 cm to 169 cm, or 35 3/4 inches all the way to 66.5 inches. So these sizes are with the positive ease included, and the recommended positive ease is about 10 to 15 cm, or 4 to 6 inches of positive ease, which I really like, because I think the ideal positive ease for me is about 15 cm because it's loose enough that I can wear another long sleeved t-shirt or a loose fitting t-shirt underneath, so it's not too tight but it's not too loose either that I feel like I'm enveloped in it. And I think that the fact that there is not too much positive ease allows for a slightly smarter look. Camera keeps running out of battery, but I'm back again. Let's talk a bit about the construction of this sweater. So this sweater is described as a relaxed and slightly cropped fit with narrow sleeves for a flattering silhouette. So this sweater is a raglan construction, so the details at the raglan and underarm seams are done in twisted rib to create that really nice and sleek detail and finish. And I think that the sweater just really has an overall really effortless look to it. How cute would it be to knit up the sweater in like a coral pink or a matcha green color? I think that would look really nice. And this sweater is, I think, a sweater that you can knit multiple times in different colors because of how versatile it is for everyday wear. The next category that I want to talk about is lace and cable sweaters. We are slowly approaching my most favorite category, which is colourwork sweaters, so you might want to stick around for that. But let's talk lace and cabled sweaters first. The first is the Marielle blouse, and I think that this is a pretty popular pattern. I've been seeing it pretty often on my Instagram, and this is a pattern that's actually a pretty new pattern as well. It was released in July 2025, and this is a pattern by Maria Shai Morgenstad. I hope I said that correctly. The recommended yarn weight for this is a light fingering weight yarn. and the gauge is 20 stitches and 30 rows. So I do believe that this will result in a really nice loose drapey fabric. I'm worried that it will look a bit too holey because of the fact that you're using a light fingering weight yarn and you're knitting them up in 4mm needles at a gauge of 20 stitches per 10 cm, which sounds more like a DK weight yarn to me. So I'm actually curious to see how it looks like in person. The sizes available are sizes 1 to 6, and the bust circumference for that is 96 cm to 156 cm, or 37 3/4 inches to 61 3/8 inches. I believe that these are also probably taking into account the positive ease already. A little bit about the construction of this blouse. The upper part of the back piece is worked back and forth with contiguous shoulder increases. The shoulder pieces are worked back and forth separately from picked up stitches on the back piece. The shoulder pieces have increases for the neckline and are joined to form one front piece by casting on stitches for the mid-front. The front piece is then worked back and forth and has increases for the armholes. The front and back piece are then joined, then you work it around in the same lace detail patterns. The stitches are actually knitted straight down without decreases for the sleeves. So it results in a little bit of a loose fit for the sleeve. I do believe that if I were to knit this, I would want to have a little bit of sleeve decreases, just because I think it allows for a slightly sleeker finish. But I do love how this sweater looks otherwise. I think it's so pretty and, you know, just gorgeous lace details all around. I do believe she has the same pattern but as a top, I think. Let me check. I do believe she has this as a top as well. Oh, unfortunately, I don't think she has it as a top version, but it would be so cute as a top. I think the flirty looks a bit similar to this. The collar looks like it's a folded collar. The armholes, the cuffs are just simple ribbing, and it's all finished with an Italian tubular bind off. So what a cute pattern. I think for this kind of pattern I would totally want to do it in like maybe a dusty kind of color, pale autumny kind of color. Like I honestly get quite influenced by what the pattern designer knits up her sweater in, so I always end up thinking along those lines. But I do think the sweater will look really nice in pale dusty colors. So the next sweater that I want to recommend is the Porcelain Damask sweater by Lenit. Lenit is also the one who did the porcelain sweater, the one that is famous or slightly infamous, I guess. Some people have mixed reviews about it. The porcelain sweater sort of caught my eye, but I've never gotten around to knitting it because of all the mixed reviews that it's got going on the fit of the porcelain sweater. However, the Porcelain Damask sweater, this one really caught my eye because it is basically the same design as the porcelain sweater, but this is done in a textured way instead to give that details. I do believe it's just a variation of pearl and knit stitches to create those designs, but I just put it in the cable and lace details because I don't know, it just sort of fits in this category because of the texture that it has. It's just a simple top-down sweater with slanted shoulders, and stitches are picked up for the neckline last. And then I believe it looks like a folded collar. The yarn weight is recommended to be DK. The gauge is 21 stitches and 28 rows. The sizes available are XXS all the way to 3XL, and that corresponds to 91 cm, 249 cm, or 35 3/4 inches to 58 3/4 inches. I am not sure if this includes the positive ease, but I do think it sounds like it already has positive ease included into that. So the recommended positive ease is 15 to 25 cm, which I do think is a nice range. I would want to err more towards the 15 cm positive ease for this one. As for the construction of the sweater, is worked from the top. You start at the top of the back, then from the back of the shoulders down to the bottom of the armholes. Then you work the front section, do increases for the armholes. Once you reach the underarm, you join it around and you finish in the rounds, and then you just pick up stitches for the sleeves and the collar. So it's pretty straightforward, it seems, but the fact that you have a knit and pull pattern makes for a quite interesting knit as well. Nothing too boring, and I think that this finished sweater just looks so beautiful. I actually didn't know that this pattern existed until I saw someone knit this pattern on TikTok, and the color that she did it in was super beautiful. I can't remember what it was, but I do think it was a sort of blue color, and it's really, really nice. I do think that this sweater is a really subtle design, which I do love because, you know, it looks really minimalistic from afar, but up close you realize that the pattern is actually super interesting. If I were to knit this, I would definitely knit it in a lighter color so that the pattern can really shine a lot more. I love the ice blue color that she used over here as well. Yeah, I'll probably, if I were to knit this, knit something in this sort of color scheme as well. So the next sweater is Augustine's Cables number 3, and spoiler alert, I am going to be recommending so many of these patterns from this particular designer in this video, but her designs are just spectacular and so many of her designs just caught my eye. The yarn weight is, she didn't mention, but the gauge is around 24 stitches to about 30 rows per 10 cm or 4 inches. That is sort of a spot weight kind of yarn weight, I guess. Sizes available are A all the way to H, which is basically 80 cm all the way to 150 cm for your measured bust circumference. The positive ease for the sweater is around 20 cm, so if you want to go slightly lower, you just knit a size smaller. If you want a bit more positive ease, you can just knit a size up. So that's really clear cut. This sweater is just beautiful. This sweater is knitted bottom up, which is I don't know how I feel about bottom-up constructions. I wouldn't do it unless it is absolutely necessary, because I just feel it really opens up to a lot of guess and check in terms of the length of the garment. So the sweater is knit bottom-up, first working in a round, and then you work the front and back portions separately once you reach the underarms, and then throughout the whole work the sweater is knitted following a series of charts to create its lace and cabled structure. There is German short rows included as well, so it will result in a really nice fit of the sweater, and then you just finish in rib for the cuffs as well as the neckline. These cables are just so beautiful. It really reminds me a little bit of my Euro sweater as well because of just its all-around cable work. And it looks really daunting, but actually it is really fun to knit cables. I really like it because just as it's getting like somewhat repetitive, you have to do your cables, and it's just nice to see the cable pattern slowly forming on its own. I do think that it really makes me really motivated to just finish this set of cables and then get on to the next set and just keep continuously knitting to see the pattern grow, and that is just something that's really beautiful. I love the cables that she has as actually at the front, because that looks like a very intricate kind of cable that she has got going on, and then the two panels at the side, which all helps to just create a very cohesive look for the sweater. I have nothing much to say about the sweater except that it is beautiful, and I would knit it if not for the fact that I already have an all-round cable sweater in the Euro sweater. So yeah, but otherwise the sweater is really beautiful. It definitely looks like a labor of love because of its all-round cable design. Making a mistake in cables is just not fun at all. But somehow I always end up making mistakes when I do my cables. She did mention that there are some lace details as well, but I'm unable to really see where the lace details are at. I'm kind of scrolling through the photos, but I can't really exactly see lace details anywhere. But I love all the different cables that she's got going on. The cable motifs are really interesting, not like your usual like cable details. I swear my camera kept dying on me, and I got so done that I decided to go for lunch and leave it charging over lunch, and I am finally back. So let's continue talking patterns. That is all I had to say for the Augustine's cables. I just love that the cables are different. It's not like the normal like 3x3 cables that I usually do. But for example, my Brady Loop cable, this kind of cables, at least this is cute too, but cables number 3 looks beautiful. I just love it. And it's interesting how there is also that difference between what it seems like ribbing for the top part of the body that slowly transforms into cables, which I think is really interesting as well, that it's just not full out cables all over, and it also kind of emphasizes that drop shoulder look because of the ribbing that ends off somewhere here. So that is really interesting. I do think it looks a little bit too bulky for me, so for me, if I were to knit this, I would probably knit this with a single strand of yarn. I don't like things to be too bulky, and I may even size down a needle size, something like that, to create a bit of a smaller, less oversized sweater. So the next pattern that I have to share is the butterscotch sweater adult size. It's a pattern by Nashwa Sakar. I hope I pronounced that right. And I didn't know whether to put this in the cables or the colourwork section, so I decided to put it in between as kind of the link from cables to colourwork. So this is a very interesting pattern because there is some colourwork going on. It's actually very simple colourwork. It's just a 1x1 kind of colourwork, and also a really nice honeycomb looking cable detail. So it kind of alternates both vertically in terms of the color and horizontally in terms of the colorwork and cable patterns, and that results in a very visually attractive sweater and a very interesting sweater to look at as well. The suggested yarn weight is an Aran weight yarn. The gauge is 22 stitches by 22 rows in corrugated rib pattern. The sizes available are XS to 3XL, which corresponds to a chest circumference of approximately 102 centimeters to 142 cm, or 40.1 inches to 55.9 inches. I am not sure if that said the amount of positive ease. Oh yes, so it is designed to have approximately 12 to 24 cm, or 4.7 to 9.4 inches of positive ease at the bust area. So once again, I really like the positive ease that the pattern designer recommends, and I think it looks so lovely on her. I think the possibilities are endless because there's so many different color combinations that you can choose that will result in a very interesting sweater. Whether you want to have something with high contrast like the pattern designer did, or something with lower contrast to create a form of a marling effect, I think that would be really nice as well. A little bit about the construction of the butterscotch sweater. It is knit top down. You're starting with the back yoke and you work back and forth with some short row shaping, and after you're done with that, you pick up stitches across the shoulders to form the front yoke, and then you start working around after you're done with the front yoke. Stitches for the sleeves are then picked up across the armholes and then worked in around. Once again, I don't think it's a very difficult sweater in its construction. It is quite straightforward. I think the difficulty mainly lies in the fact that you are doing some cable work and there's some alternating between the cable work as well as the color work. I think even with that being said, overall, this is not too difficult a project to tackle. If you're maybe intending to start on colorwork but you're a bit intimidated by all the difficult colorwork patterns, then definitely this would be a good place to dip your toes into some simple colorwork that is not too difficult. I think this would be a good first pattern for colorwork because it's just really simple 1x1 colorwork. You don't have to have very long floats. You don't have multiple colors, just two. So that is pretty easy, I would say. Look at the project pictures. Super inspiring. There are a lot of people who, you know, really took a creative route with this. Some of them decided to use the darker color as the yarn used for the cables as well, and I think that's really interesting. It results in a very different visual effect, and yeah, overall, such a beautiful sweater. I can see myself knitting this, and you can see that a lot of the patterns that I'm suggesting all have a little bit of a drop shoulder. That is something that I really do like, if sweaters are oversized, for them to be a drop shoulder rather than a regular oversized sweater. Now, moving on to my most favorite section, and the section that I've been waiting to talk about, which is colorwork sweaters. I have so many colorwork sweaters to talk about that I really had a hard time narrowing down, and I didn't want the entire video to just be colorwork sweaters, so I had to take some colorwork sweaters out of the list. If you want me to make maybe a part 2 talking about the rest of the colorwork sweaters, do let me know down below. I can always make a second part to this video that is specifically for colorwork. So the first sweater that I want to talk about is the Darling sweater. This is a pattern by Bailey Bard, who is also known as Engineering Loops on Instagram and on Ravelry. So this pattern is super cute. It caught my eye instantly when I first saw it. This is a really cute girly kind of sweater, and when I saw the sweater I really wanted to make it, but at the same time I was like, I had already knit 3 sweaters this year. I think I've hit my maximum quota for knitting sweaters, and so I was a bit disappointed in not being able to knit this sweater. But then I found out that she also came out with the same pattern but for warm weather garments, so she made the Darling top, I think it's called, and I would definitely be knitting that. I did buy some yarn with that top in mind, so stay tuned for the whole process of me knitting this top. Talking about the Darling sweater, The suggested yarn weight is a DK weight yarn. I do believe for colourwork sweaters, I wouldn't want to go anything higher than a DK weight yarn. Because of all of the floats that are happening at the back, the sweater is going to come out a little bit thicker in itself. So if I were to knit with like an airy weight or worsted weight yarn, I do believe the final end product will be really thick and a bit stiff, and that's not something I'm looking for. So most of the colourwork sweaters that I would be recommending will be either a DK weight or even a fingering weight yarn as well. So the suggested gauge is 24 stitches and 27 rows. The sizes available are sizes 1 to 6, and that corresponds to a circumference of 106.5 cm to 163.5 cm or 42 inches to 64.5 inches. I do believe this is with the positive ease already calculated in it. She didn't mention how much of positive ease there is. Oh, she did. So it is designed to have 10 to 14 inches or 25 to 35 cm of positive ease. And I do believe the measurements I stated before was with the positive ease included into the bust circumference. Bigger positive ease than I am comfortable with. However, looking at the pattern designer's photos, it doesn't seem like she has that much positive ease actually. So I'm just wondering if she knitted a size smaller than what she usually knits with. I don't believe it's written in the pattern description what size she actually knitted and what size she normally is. So I can't really say how much positive ease there is on the model in the photo. But anyway, I do like how she looks wearing it. So definitely I think I would go on the side of lesser positive ease for this. This pattern is definitely a very beautiful, cute pattern. I don't think it's too difficult in terms of its color work. It looks slightly daunting at the start, and I do believe it will take a while to get the hang of it, to memorize the pattern, etc. But I do believe once you get the hang of it, everything else will kind of go by much more smoothly, because I just think it's the same pattern repeated throughout. So yeah, I don't think it'll be that difficult to do it. You can also go the really creative route with knitting the sweater. Some people actually knit it with slightly less contrast, so a really nice pink color. Some of them are knitting it with variegated yarn, so even let's say the bows or the background also have a little bit of color variation in itself. And I think all the different variations that are shown on the project page are all super cute, and definitely I can't wait to knit my darling top. The next pattern that I have to recommend is the sweater Sick by Sasky & Co. And I have definitely had a period of time where I was really just going through her entire pattern page, what sweaters she has on her list, because she has so many cute sweaters, and I had to kind of narrow it down to one sweater, which I decided on the Sick. I really do love the little squirrels that she has, and apparently these aren't squirrels, even though they look like squirrels. According to her, they're actually called Sick, which are Arctic ground squirrels native to the Arctic, where she calls home. So that's really cute, and I love her little homage to her home country. And the suggested yarn weight is fingering, which I do believe is really important in creating all those little details that she has got going on her sweater. It's really fine details, and so a fingering weight yarn will definitely be able to let those details shine. The gauge is 30 stitches by 32 rows, and the sizes come from size 1 all the way to size 10, which is a really great range of sizes. The chest circumference is 79 cm to 168 cm or 31 inches to 66 inches. They are meant to have a positive ease of about 7.5 cm. I do believe this is probably the sweater with the least amount positive ease in my pattern recommendation. I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like one of the more tight-fitting sweaters that I have in my pattern recommendations. So a very cute sweater. A little bit about its construction. It is a top-down sweater. It's knit in the round, and it has a circular yoke. There is some short row shaping to help with the fit of the garment, and there are also different customizable options such as the sleeve length as well as the body length. So that is really great as well if you want a bit of a more cropped fit. Options for that. I love the little squirrels and the acorns. I think everything looks super cute all together, and I love a color combination of like a brown and beige, very earthy tones, which really harmonious with the pattern design itself. I have never knit a circular yoke pattern before, so I've heard that for circular yokes the fit of the sweater or the garment really may not fit really great. I think the fact that she has short row shaping added into this will really help with that as well. So I do believe that this would be a really nice pattern to knit up. Definitely if I were to knit this, I would choose something with a really high contrast yarn. I mean, I am really drawn to the color combination that she did choose. If anything, for the darker brown color, I may change it out to a bit more of a reddish brown, kind of like a rust red kind of color. I think that'd be really nice. I don't actually have a brown color sweater, so I might actually knit this. I don't know, who knows. But that's that for the sweater. The next sweater that I have to recommend is once again by Anne-Sophie Veiling, which is the Northern Augustins number 7. And oh my goodness, this sweater is a work of art. I mean, do you see the intricate details that are going on in the sweater? It's crazy. It looks like a tessellation of those kind of towels, like the blue and the white towels, if you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this sweater is beautiful, and I love how the designer intentionally chose colors that were less contrasting, so that from afar it just looks like the little marling going on, but up close you realize that it's just all intricate designs. That is so beautiful. The recommended yarn weight is a DK weight yarn. The gauge is 22 stitches and 32 rows. The sizes go from A to H. I do believe this designer has a lot of size inclusive designs, so if you want to check out any of her other patterns, I would suggest checking this designer out. So that corresponds to a bust circumference of 80 to 150 cm. Let me check what that is in inches. So that is 31 inches by 59 inches. This sweater has a positive ease of approximately 30 cm. I might want to size down a little bit for this. I normally knit already the smallest size, so I think if I wanted anything with less positive ease, I can't size down, and I would think regrading the pattern to suit a smaller size for me would be too difficult with this amount of color work going on. It's not like plain stockinette with no color work where I can just change the number of stitches. For this, it would just mess up everything. So, you know, if I were to knit this, maybe I would just knit with a needle size smaller or with a slightly lighter yarn weight. Something like that. A little bit about the construction of the sweater. The sweater is knit top down in a round in stockinette stitch. All edges of the sweater are knitted in rib and the neckline is double layered. I love folded collars. I do think it results in a very polished look, and I always try to do folded collars when I can. So when knitted in a round yoke, the body and sleeves, a series of charts is followed to create the multicolored pattern. I did look through the different projects for this pattern, and a lot of people said that this pattern was pretty easy to follow. It was very clear cut and things like that. So this is, I would think, a good pattern to do if you are wanting to do color work and you maybe knit something a bit more clear cut. Maybe this might be a good sweater. I don't know if it may be a bit adventurous if it's your first color work sweater, but you get a beautiful sweater out of it, and you don't learn if you don't try. So just go for it. If you love the sweater, just go for it. It looks scary, but I do believe that it will get a little bit better as it goes on. And honestly, only the top part, like the yoke portion, has varying designs. Once you get to the underarms and downwards, even for the sleeves, it's the same repeated pattern. So I think only the yoke portion would be a bit confusing, if any at all. And I think once you get to the underarms and going back to knitting it around, it should be quite straightforward. At least I think it will be quite straightforward. I have not actually knitted this. I do like the sweaters that have slightly less contrast in them. I think it looks a little bit more elegant in a way. I mean, I do love those that are a little bit high contrast as well. It's just a different kind of aesthetic. Yeah, this is a really beautiful pattern. I may knit this sweater next year and make it a labor of love, and I'll just like probably take a few months to finish this sweater. The next sweater that I want to talk about is also by Anne-Sophie Veiling, and this is the Northern Augustins number 4. Because this is so cute. I think this is the first sweater of hers that actually caught my eye, and this is a pattern that was released last year in April, so April 2024. Let's talk a bit about the details of this pattern first before I gush about the pattern itself. The recommended yarn is heavy merino, knitting for olive, held together with soft silk mohair. So I do believe that gives a little bit of, maybe a bit towards the worsted weight side. I've never actually knitted with both those yarns before, so I can't give a definite gauge, but I do believe maybe worsted weight. So the gauge wise is 16 stitches to 22 rows. Yeah, sounds like a worsted weight to me. The sizes go once again size A to H, so same as the previous pattern. This sweater is once again a top down circular yoke sweater. I do believe with colorwork sweaters, a lot of them tend to end up just being a circular yoke. I am not sure if there's short row shaping for this particular sweater. Even if there isn't, I would probably do my own short row shaping to kind of account for the circular yoke and make it fit a little bit better. This pattern is so cute. I love this pattern so much. I honestly would knit it in the exact same color combination that she chose, because her eye for colors and for choosing color combinations just work so well together, and I think her color choices just really complement her designs so well. They fit so well together. The bows are so cute. What else can I say about this sweater? It's so cute. I definitely have to make this sweater, probably next year. Once again, I'm not going to knit any more sweaters for the rest of this year, but this one is definitely high on my list. If I were to knit any sweater from this video, this would be like my top 2 choices. If you guys have knit this sweater before, let me know how it went. The positive ease is approximately 20 cm, so once again, probably will, for example, she recommends knit like 2 yarns held together. I would probably just use 1 yarn and then I will downsize my needle. So for example, just putting this out here, I mean, I am obsessed with Sanders Gun Peer Gynt now, so I would probably use the Sanders Gun Peer Gynt. I love that the Peer Gynt is a bit fuzzy in itself, so it still have a bit of the halo that the mohair brings about. And I think I knitted that with size 5mm needles, so the recommended needle size for this is 6, so I'll go 1 needle size down and I'll use a thinner yarn, and I think it will result in less positive ease as well, and it will make the sweater fit a little bit better. The next pattern that I want to talk about is Moinier by Albiona McLaughlin. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering the name. I'm trying. But this sweater is so cute. It's been in my reverie for a really long time. And this is the other sweater that will be my top 2 picks for knitting out of this entire list of sweater recommendations that I have, because it is so cute. And I love her color combination, the warmth of the green, like a lime khaki green color with that really deep red color. And I also love the details that she's got going on the neck. It's just not a straight simple ribbing, but a little bit of a ruffled edge, and I love how she brings that red line down to the cuffs of the sleeve, so it really kind of ties in the whole look together. If you wanted to, you could also do like the alternate color work for the ribbing of the body to make the body striped as well if you wanted to. Yeah, that may be a bit too much, but you know, if you wanted to, you could. I just love the little lines that just really emphasizes that circular yoke that she's got going on as well. So I want to talk a bit about the description of this pattern. So the suggested yarn weight is an Aran weight yarn. The gauge is 17 stitches by 23 rows. The sizes available go from 90 cm to 160 cm, or 34 inches to 64 inches. So there are 8 sizes in total, from size 1 all the way to size 8. Approximately 10 cm of positive ease is recommended. I do believe this sweater looks nicer as a more fitted sweater with a very slight relaxed fit. If it's too oversized, I feel like it kind of loses its whimsy and it's like a delicateness that this sweater has. So a little bit about the construction of this top. This is a top-down circular yoke construction sweater. As with all the other colorwork sweaters that I've talked about, I think it will be a pretty straightforward construction after you're done with the colorwork segment. There really isn't too much to worry about. For the rest of the sweater, it's just plain stockinette. So it would and it should be a pretty easy piece of colorwork sweater to do. And also the fact that they are just 2 colors, it's easy to handle and manage. I do believe this pattern particularly caught my eye, mainly because of the color choices that the first sweater has, the green and the red together. I think the rest of the color combinations for the rest of the sweaters just don't really hit quite the same. Or maybe it's the hate piece that she's wearing, I don't know, but there's something about the first photo that just chef's kiss. It's beautiful, it catches my eye, it's amazing, and I really want to knit that exact sweater in that exact color. The next sweater that I want to recommend is the Lily sweater by Stjolaget No, I think that's how you pronounce it. The last 3 sweaters, I believe, the last 4 sweaters that I have to recommend, I put it all the way at the back because they are not as size inclusive, as I wanted to include them because they're really beautiful patterns, but unfortunately they just do not have much sizes to them. So anyway, the first one, the Lily sweater, very cute sweater. It's just a floral design that's repeated all over. The suggested yarn weight is Aran weight. The gauge is 19 stitches by 21 rows. The sizes available go from XS to XL, which means that it fits a bust circumference of approximately 90 cm to 130 cm, and that in inches is 35 inches by 51 inches. They didn't say how much positive ease is recommended for the sweater, but the measurements that I stated just now, I believe, are the final garment measurements. So yeah, it runs a bit on the smaller side with slightly less positive ease. A little bit about the construction. The Lily sweater is knit top down with raglan increases. You start by knitting the neckline, which you then join in a round. You can choose a high or a low neckline. Raglan increases are worked with yarn overs. While working the raglan increases, you will also follow the pattern charts provided. It's a very cute pattern. It looks simple enough. After a while, I do believe you can memorize the pattern and it'll become quite a straightforward knit. I believe the difficult part with like colourwork sweaters is having to work the colourwork while also working the increases in the shaping that comes about with the yoke. I do believe once you get past that section, it gets much easier. Unfortunately, not too many projects are done for the sweater as well, so I do not have many project photos to look at. Definitely a very cute sweater, just not something that is super high up on my list to knit amongst all of these patterns. The next pattern that I want to recommend is the Winter Garden pullover, and this pattern is so beautiful. It is a pattern by Mary Ann Steffens, and this pattern I actually got to know about because of this TikToker called Shay on TikTok and Instagram, I believe, and she has actually knitted this, and I love her actual color combination that she did. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I will try to find a photo of it and put it up here to show you guys. And her version of the sweater looked really nice that I had to find out what pattern that was, and it is the Winter Garden pullover. However, the sizes for this are super limited. There are only 2 adult female sizes, which has a 44-inch and 51-inch finished chest circumference. So in meters, that is, I need to see what this is because it's so little. 111 cm and 129 cm. That will result in, for me, if I were to knit the smaller size, 20 cm of positive ease. Yeah, it's super limited in sizing, so I have my reservations about knitting the sweater because I just don't know if it will fit me how I would like it to. She actually mentioned that the reason why it's very difficult to have other sizes is because she said that this design features multiple large motifs in a panel layout with fixed borders, so therefore sizes are very limited. And she said that additional sizes can be achieved by knitting to a different gauge. For example, use thinner yarns or smaller needles for smaller sizes, and for larger sizes, use heavier yarn or larger needles. I am not a pattern designer, so I don't know how to grade this to include a greater variety of sizes. I'm really not sure, but I'm just putting this pattern here for anyone who is able to somehow have these exact 2 sizes. The yarn weight is a DK weight yarn. The gauge is 24 stitches by 28 rows, and a little bit about the construction. It is a Norwegian style pullover with sticked armholes secured with machine sewn reinforcement. This is probably the most difficult sweater I will be recommending amongst all of the patterns here because sticking, you need to stick the pullover. Sticking is a whole other ballgame by itself. I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to cut my knitting. So yeah, I don't know if I can do that, but you know, this pattern requires that. And secondly, the motifs all look pretty complicated. There are a lot of different designs going on at the same time. It looks pretty complicated to me. Okay, I'm not sure if it's knit to bottom up or top down. The fact that there are so little sizes also contribute to its difficulty because if you want to change the gradient of the sweater to fit you, I do not know if that's even possible. I wouldn't know how to even get started on changing the stitch counts to fit me. So yeah, probably on indefinite hold, but I would love to knit this sweater if I can muster up the courage to potentially change the stitch counts to suit my size or to do sticking. So yeah, that is the sweater. The next sweater that I want to recommend is Blomster Chaos by Knits by Selena. It is published in August this year. The suggested gauge is 18 stitches by 10 rows, so I think a bit more of a worsted weight yarn. The sizes available are super limited, but at least a little bit better than a Winter Garden pullover. There's only small, medium, and large, so that corresponds to a bust circumference of 95 cm to 157 cm, and in inches that is 37 inches all the way to 61 inches. So this is actually definitely too big a sweater for me as well, and the fact that this is supposed to be an oversized fit. She didn't actually mention the amount of positive ease that is recommended, so I do not know how big the final sweater will turn out to be, but this is a really nice sweater. I do love the towel look that she's got going on in the sweater. I think it's really nice, and I really wish that it just came in more sizes so that I could knit this as well. It's really cute, and the green that she chose to do for this sweater, super cute. If I were to knit this, I would probably knit, once again, I'll just size down needle size, choose a way smaller yarn than what she's suggesting, and I would probably knit the same stitch count because when it comes to color work, I do not know how to change it to regrade it to fit my size. So I would probably do that. But yeah, once again, this is a difficult pattern to change simply because of its all over color work. So the next pattern that I want to recommend is actually not even available on Reverie, but this is the Belle Genzer by Runa Streak, and this is a pattern that I saw on Instagram. It really caught my eye. I don't know why, but floral colorwork designs have been catching my eye lately, and I think this one is no exception. It's pretty cute, looks pretty straightforward to do as well. There are definitely a lot of different designs going on, but at the same time I do think it doesn't seem that daunting to do. There's pretty little information about this pattern, but the sizes only include size S to XL, which corresponds to a bust circumference of 107 to 133. I don't think this is the final measurement of the garment, so once again it will be absolutely huge on me, but I just wanted to suggest this sweater because it's cute, and if any of you guys happen to fit the size, then you know, this would be a sweater that I would recommend. But personally for me, I don't think it would fit me too much. Let's move on to my last two patterns, which are Christmas patterns, because it's never too early for Christmas, right? Actually, I wasn't even planning to include Christmas sweater patterns in this video, but they just popped up and they were really cute, so I thought that I would just show them to you guys because Christmas is only 2 months away, and so if we get started now, you guys should be able to have a Christmas sweater in time for Christmas. So the first sweater is called Home for Christmas by Renata and Dormy, and this suggested yarn weight is a DK weight yarn. The gauge is 22 stitches by 30 rows. The size range for this is insane. It goes from a children's size of 4 years old all the way to 10 years old, and then it goes from a women's XS to a 4XL, and for men it goes from S all the way to 4XL. So the size range for this is impeccable. It's great, much better than the last few patterns that I suggested. The main thing that drew me to this pattern is obviously the cars with the Christmas tree on the top. I mean, how cute is that? I do my own nails, and actually last Christmas I painted the card with the tree on my thumb, so that kind of reminds me of my Christmas nails last year. A little bit about the construction of this sweater. This sweater is worked top down and around and seamlessly. The yoke begins just after the neckline. It flows down to the armholes. It's a circular yoke, and there is also short row shaping if you guys want to include that. So I love that they included short row shaping to ensure a better fit of the garment. This sweater is designed to have 0 to 10 cm of positive ease or 0 to 4 inches of positive ease. So a little bit more of a fitted sweater, which is really cute. I think it'll be really nice to wear on Christmas morning in you guys' house. Not in my house, it's too hot here. It'll be really nice to wear it like it as an indoors sort of sweater. I could definitely see myself knitting this. I love that they did some color work on the wrists as well. It really reminds me of like the little sweater kind of Christmas sweater designs, and it just really looks like a really distinct Christmas sweater. If you guys are all about celebrating Christmas and want to be full in the Christmas spirit, this would be the sweater for you. Of course, there are literally no other color combinations that I can recommend except the green and red and the white that they have got going on there. It just screams Christmas. And the main thing, I love the cars. However, because there are so many different colors going on, I am looking at least 3 different colors. I'm not sure if the wheels of the cars they look to be green as well, so there are 3 different colors going on, especially the color work at the cars. I think that would be the most difficult thing to do because there's a color change every other row, and it looks pretty complicated to have many different strands at the same time. Yeah, I would think this is a bit more of a difficult color work, but still, the end product is so worth it. If you guys want to knit a Christmas sweater but you don't want a sweater that screams Christmas, then I would recommend the Northern Augustines No. 6 by Anne-Sophie Veiling. Once again, a pattern by her. Any surprise there? This pattern is so much more subtle. Of course, the pattern details on the sweater still make it really obvious that it's a Christmas sweater, but at first glance, I don't think it is as obvious as the green and red sweater that the previous design had. The suggested yarn weight is probably a DK weight. They didn't really mention, but the gauge is 22 stitches by 32 rows. The sizes once again is A to H. All her sweaters seem to have the same type of sizing, so 80 to 150 cm, and there's 20 cm of positive ease, which corresponds to 7.8 inches of positive ease. That is the recommendation for this. She does seem to have sweaters that are more oversized, and yeah, such a cute sweater. I don't think she really talked too much about the construction of the sweater, but looking at the photos, it seems to be a top-down circular yoke sweater, and the neck collar looks like a folded collar. The color work seems super intricate as well. There's the candy canes at the first row, and then the garland, presents, Christmas trees, but then a heart-shaped kind of wreath and then the bows at the bottom. So a lot of different things going on at the same time, but I think that makes for a very interesting knit, and I would love to knit this sweater. I think it's so cute and so subtle. And with this last pattern, that is all I have for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed my pattern recommendations, and let me know down below if you guys are planning to knit any of the sweaters that I recommended today. That's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!